And we are live. What's good, everybody? It's your man, Dale Saint. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Really want to know podcast, man. How y'all feeling out there? Happy Thursday. Happy Thursday. How y'all doing? Hope all is well. All is well on this end, man. We're about to have a real good conversation, man. I got a couple real cool sisters that are going to tell us all about the world of autism, man, living life on the spectrum. I know nothing about this topic, so I am probably the most curious person here. I'm trying to tell y'all right now. I love learning new things, and especially a world that's always existed that I didn't know existed. So to me, this is like all brand new. I'm excited about it. Can't wait to get into it. Hope you guys are doing well. Um, so yeah, you know what I mean? Let's just make it happen, y'all. Let's get right into it. And we are live. What's good, y'all? Welcome, welcome, welcome to the I Really Want to Know podcast, y'all. Get some indeed, man. Guys, just so you guys know, that Matthew Cox video, Inside True Crime interview that I did about 4 days ago, over a week ago, about a week ago. Man, that thing's over 104,000 views and climbing. That's crazy, right? It's crazy. Shout out to everybody who was sending me love on Instagram, man. You know, wishing Uncle Saint all the best. First time I ever had a real big interview, and man, and that's just the first half of the session that we did. There's another one coming. It'll be out soon. I don't know when. Maybe early part of next week. Maybe later tonight. Don't know. But yeah, I'm really impressed. But just wanted to throw that out there. Catch up with the comments real quick. We got GMC Hammer in the building. What's good, fam? Like, what's good, Unc? I really want to know. Yeah, man, we're going to find out everything we need to find out about autism. Brother Dinosaur is in the buildings, checking in from the UK. Good, what's good, bruv? Like, DL and welcome, Miss Washington. I follow a young woman, 29, on YouTube with a host of issues. The doctors say she is the autism list, but she digress. She is on meds. All right. You're probably driving, bro. I'm just trying to read that stuff, man. Y'all know I got public school education. So when y'all type in something funny, it throws me off. Like, what the hell am I reading here? But we're going to learn more about this, man. Shout out to you. He was like, yeah, posted 4 days ago, and it's like 106,000 views. When I checked earlier today, thank you, GMC Hammer. And that is, that's the plug. That's the guy that got me that interview. So shout out to him. A lot of positive comments. Yes, I don't read comments no more, bro. I'm done reading comments on somebody else's platform. I only read comments on this platform. If I'm doing something on somebody else's platform, I'm not reading the comments, just so y'all know. But I want to get into this. Sister JQ, Jay Washington is back. She's gonna tell us all about autism, and she brought a friend. So I'm gonna bring Sister Jay Washington up right now. What's good, sis? How you feeling?
Hello, I am doing well. How are you?
I'm all right. I'm hanging in there, trying to do my best. You know what I mean? Do what we do. Enjoying being retired, semi-retired, I should say. Got another show tomorrow. Actually, we're doing something at Status tomorrow. We got a small show that we put together. So I'm going to be doing that tomorrow. So I can't really say I'm really retired, am I?
You still working, but you're retired.
Yes. So, I want to thank you again for doing this. Like the first show was like really informative, and we didn't have a lot of time. I didn't have a lot of time. So this time we're going to be able to speak as long as we need to speak and get the information out to those who are interested. And you brought a friend. Who did you bring along with you?
I did. I brought my childhood friend, Sanithia.
There she is right there. Sanithia, what's good, sis? Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you to everyone.
So Sanithia, we are from the same hometown. And like I said, she is my childhood friend, and we have been locked in for years. So she's also an educator. And I just thought that she would be great with this topic, with what we will be discussing today. So
okay, well, that's what's up. And before we get started, you know what? I just want to give you guys a moment to, in Sister J. Washington's case, refresh everyone's mind as to who she is. And then, Sanithia, you could tell everyone who you are. And we'll start with you, sis. Just go ahead and let everyone know who you are.
Hi, I am Jaquanda in Washington. I am a behavior therapist, ABA technician, registered behavior technician, whichever one you want to call it. And I work with individuals with learning disabilities, behavior disabilities, and those under the spectrum.
Oh, that's what's up. That's how you keep it short and sweet, y'all. See how that works out? Short and sweet, right to the point. That's how you know you're dealing with somebody who ain't got a lot of time. And Sanithia, tell us about yourself.
Well, hi, everybody. I am Sanithia. So I've been a teacher for about 10 years, 10 plus years. And in the teaching field, I've had all spectrums of students, but mainly students with disabilities, not in a special education field, but in the general education classroom where students go undiagnosed. That's the area where I am. And personally, I also have a brother who is autistic, but he's also my older brother. So I wanted to speak to you guys about a little bit about that connection as well.
That's what's up. And Brother Dino was saying about the female that he was talking about. She is on the autism list, but she disagrees. Maybe we could start there. I mean, is that something that people encounter a lot? Like, someone's like, okay, you're on the spectrum. We're diagnosing you with this, but that individual's like, no, that's not the thing. Does that happen? And we'll start with you, Sister J. Yeah, JQ.
I would say yes, of course, especially like in the Black community. Like you don't want to be labeled something. You want your child to be labeled something. Or that's just like if you go to the doctor and they say, oh, you have cancer. You're like, no, I don't have cancer. So yeah, that definitely happens.
All right. And what's your take, sis?
Well, I agree with you that it definitely happens because no one wants to be told that they can't do. And especially people with disabilities as they're an adult, they find out that they can do, but there's still a gray area of fault. There's still a gray area of which they honestly can't, but aren't able to see. So yes, they have their self perspectives of I'm just fine. But in all actuality, when compared to society, there is some help that needs to be had.
Okay, that's cool because I never really thought about it, and it makes complete sense. Looks like y'all folks done showed up. We got the DJ Young Frankie in the building.
Hi, that's my brother.
Hey, that's what's up. Welcome,
there.
brother. I see you, bro. Welcome. And also showers of blessings. Hey, just came across your podcast. Thank you for stopping in there. Appreciate it. Looks like YouTube ain't so mad at me no more. I guess when we talk about stuff that YouTube is okay with, folks can find it. So appreciate you coming through. So JQ, where's the best place to start this conversation?
Well, we can kind of we'll start where we left off at, but the main reason that I invited Sanithia is because we share similar and different experiences. Like she said, she has a brother that is on the spectrum and her brother is older. I have a brother with special needs, learning disabilities, and he is younger than I am. So we have similar experiences and also different as well.
So when you're dealing with this as a family, it begins at home, right? So if there are parents out there, let's say if parents, they have a child and they're kind of, watching their child's development, what should a parent do if they suspect, or is this something that the doctors tell them to be prepared for? And I'll throw that to whoever wants to jump on that.
No problem. Honestly, parents should seek help immediately. But one thing with seeking help is that you have to know that you are seeking help or that you need to seek help. So, just observing your child, just understanding what they should be doing at the toddler ages, what they should be doing at the adolescent ages, and so forth and so on, when it comes to independency or, building on foundations. And once you start to notice, like, hey, my child isn't doing this or is doing this that seems a little bit off, go ahead and seek, outside help, which is take them to the doctor, refer them to the school system, because that's why the school system is there, even though you do have to push in the school system. But as soon as the parents see something off a little different, it really doesn't matter. It does not hurt to inquire about it.
So when you using that terminology there, off a little bit different, what are we talking about? Maybe your child's not speaking at the rate,
Hmm.
or maybe they're not walking, or they love to stare at the wall. Like what are we talking about here? Because I remember when my daughter was born, they ran a battery test, and they were saying, okay, she's fine for all these things, including downs and all that kind of stuff, right? But I don't recall any discussion about autism or anything like that. And so, Jay
Um,
Washington, what would you suggest?
the same as Sanithia, but that's why it's called the spectrum, because it's so wide. Like every individual is not different. There are some similarities, but they are different. You can have those that don't have the eye contact. They may not be talking, or they're repeating everything that you say. They may be walking on their tippy toes. Those are just some things to look for at a very early age. Um, Dislikes, interest. They're very particular with certain things. They're going to line toys up in a row. So there's just different things that you want to look for. Even their social skills. They may not be interacting with their siblings or with others. So those are just a few earlier signs that you can look for.
Okay. Go ahead, sis.
Well, so also those are things that the parents have to look out for. But once they become 3, 4 years old, they are enrolled in VPK or kindergarten, pre-kindergarten, or whatever the programs are. They have things put in place as well. They have programs. They have testings put in place once the teachers start to recognize those on the spectrum characteristics as well. So, but you don't want to leave it all up to someone else to determine what's going on with your child, because like I
Right.
said, you have to be aware. So we might say, oh, it's my child, so I know that they'll be talking a little bit later, or I didn't talk till I was about 4, 3, 2, something like that. You cannot compare. It's almost like apples to oranges, and you have to take heed to that, because as the world is advancing, so are the drugs that they're putting in pregnant women. So are, whenever you're going out to eat, the foods that you consume. So there are so many things to look out for
That's a
once the
good
child is
point.
born.
And GMC Hammer makes a really good point too. And I was thinking the same thing. Is there such a thing as reading too much into it and maybe misdiagnosing
Yeah. People are misdiagnosed every day.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
every day? So it's one of those things like, okay, parents, pay attention, but don't read into it too much. And I guess you're looking for consistency because,
Mm-hmm.
people are people. Little kids, you have some little kids who are very social. You got some little kids who aren't social. Like my daughter is very social around me, but when I watch her interact with strangers, she's kind of keep it to herself. And then when she's with her close friends, again, she opens up. So people are like, well, no, she's not social. This is oh man, it's like this is why I tell folks, man, it ain't easy being a parent, y'all. It ain't easy. You go out here and make the best decision that you can with the information that you have. So when it comes to
Mm-hmm.
testing, um, when it comes to testing, what are some of the things that we should be aware of? How can we? Because what I'm trying to ask is there a way that we can identify those people who are just looking to get additional funding because they can label this child, whether this child is actually on the spectrum or not? Is there a way we could tell who those people are and separate them from the folks who are really trying to help? And Sanithia, we'll start with you.
A way to separate. I'm not going to say a way to separate because, hmm,
You
I
see where I'm
don't
coming from with this one,
necessarily.
though?
I'm sorry.
You see where I'm coming from with this particular question? Like, how can I? Yeah,
Absolutely, absolutely. I would say the people to actually dig into whatever they say are your maybe speech pathologists, the people that have to sign off on yes, the child is showing this, or no, the child is not showing that. I guess that's the conversation around those type of people, because everybody else up until that point, I feel, is trying to help. That's why the recommendations happen. But like you said the key word, I believe you said funding. These things are attached to funding, and we all know that education is one of the biggest funded areas of the economy, even though the teachers don't see it, but education definitely sees it through these certain types of programs. So there will be a lot of people, hate to say it, just signing off on papers so that you can get the program, because when the schools get funding, they get new books, they get new personnel, X, Y, and Z. So it does come with some perks, so that is something to look out for.
And JQ, I see you shaking your head for a minute with this particular topic. So so go right ahead. Let's hear what you got to say.
Research, definitely research, because like she said, there are physicians out there that will, some are there to help you, some are just going to sign away because they just see that money. So definitely research. I encourage parents to connect themselves with other parents, like get a support group. So, I mean, you may not know, the signs to look for, but once you're in that support group, all of those other parents, caregivers, individuals can also help you and guide you, to the right physician, speech pathologist, like all of that.
Okay, that's a good point. Like just seek out those who may be in a similar circumstance and compare notes kind of thing. So, because those parents wouldn't be in it for the money. They're in it because they're trying to figure out what's going on with their child versus the folks working for the school, working for the city, working for the state or whatever. And they're just looking at, this could be another, another dollar sign. We get this kid in here, get some more money. Showers of blessings makes an interesting point. Second, it's interesting how you spoke about mothers being careful of what they eat and put in their bodies. And let's keep it 100. Our moms feed us. So, we're putting all sorts of chemicals in our bodies, in our child's bodies. I mean, it's chemicals in the water. We don't drink water out of the tap. We go by, spring water, but I don't know where that water came from. Somebody could be out back, with a dirty water hose filling up the spring water bottles. So, how important is that to kind of be mindful of our child's diet? Does that have an effect on those on the spectrum?
I would say it
Absolutely.
has, like,
Go ahead.
the total, effect on it. That's just like anything that we consume that has effect on us, whether it's with our energy, our weight gain, weight loss, the way that we think, all of that. So it affects everyone.
Facts,
And we
fact.
don't even know what's in these foods right now. Like, I really just want to grow my own, to be honest.
Ain't that the truth?
Yeah. So just to agree with you, you said the list of things to be aware of, but like you said, being mindful, being careful, because honestly, we're gonna eat whatever honestly America puts out. Just like everybody ate what America put out whenever we were born. But linking what autism was connected to, you have to, and what they say whenever you do your research, they do say that it was linked to medications. It was linked to the oxygen that the child was or was not getting in the stomach. So with knowing what it's linked to, if you do want to be that diligent, maybe aligning your diet, aligning your daily activities to what can avoid or help out a situation. But it kind of is, I feel like, a dice roll sometimes.
Wow. And I mean, again, parenting is already tough enough as it is. You get into a situation where maybe you're a single mom, single dad, or you're a working mom and dad. And, so I want to ask this question, then I want to go into growing up with those on the spectrum. How how frightening can it be when you're talking about childcare for someone on the spectrum? And so Sanithia, we'll start with you.
I'm sorry, a call was coming in. Can you repeat that?
I was wondering how frightening can it be when with respect to childcare, when you're,
Hmm.
looking for someone to provide childcare for a child who may be on the spectrum.
I think it's a twofold, because you're afraid of the other kids, because kids are mean. Kids aren't understanding, until they actually understand, which could take a while. And then you have the negligent adults too, who have low patience, don't really necessarily see their environment or see what's going on and act accordingly. You have to look out for those. So honestly, it's very, very scary. I'll give you guys a point. My mother, who at one point in time did not know my brother was autistic, but very observant. They got that taken care of very, very early. But it was a daily, up until my brother graduated, it was almost a daily to weekly fight with the school system, between the kids, what was going on with the students, and what was going on with the teachers not wanting to give services because, hey, that's somebody else's problem, or the kids just being mean bullies. So it's very scary. You have to equip your child with all types of tools just to send them to school. But again, that's a scary thing because you don't want to overload them, overwhelm them, and just what should be for them just basic life. But the preparation for them is scary as well, because you're realizing, oh my gosh, like, my child doesn't necessarily have the social skills, but I gotta coach them through this. My child may not necessarily have the recognizable skills, but I still have to teach them and show them how to deal with, if this happens, do this. If this, so a lot of things that we would catch on to, you have to coach them through that constantly, and that is a scary thing.
Okay, and Sister JQ, what's your take on it?
That would be like probably one of the most frightening things to me if I was a parent, just because, like she said, the negligence of adults. Like, you're sending your child to a daycare or to school, and you're just hoping for the best. I know people say, I don't trust people, but you get on a plane, you drop your child off, you're doing all these other things, and you don't even know these people. And just for something to happen to your child, especially those on the spectrum who may not be able to even tell what happened, and it just keeps continuing. Like, that would eat me up inside if I didn't know that something was happening to my child and they like verbally wouldn't be able to express that to me.
Which is always a fear for me. Like, before my daughter could talk, taking her to daycare, you just dropping your child off with strangers. um and then add to that, your child may be on the spectrum. I can see how that could be a problem. And just because we're on the subject, I guess just kind of thinking it through, what additional steps can someone take to help mitigate that fear? In other words, are there schools or daycares that specialize in this sort of thing? Did you guys ever heard of that?
Yeah, absolutely. I work at one.
Oh, okay, so cool.
Yeah,
And are those facilities more expensive, or is there help for those who need money to pay maybe the difference in, if it's, let's just make up numbers here, it's $100 more to go to your school because you guys specialize in that. Will there be help to get those funds, or is that a thing?
there's funding through insurance.
Oh, through insurance. Okay.
Uh-huh.
Hmm.
All right,
Yep.
because
So
that's
that's
one.
another
Go
thing.
ahead, sis.
I was going to say that, but with insurance, we have to also know that the parents have to know that they have to fight for that. They have to go out and get that insurance. It's not something that's automatically deemed to them. There's paperwork behind that. There are check-ins behind that. It's just like food stamps. You have to go and apply and see if, go through all of your numbers. I'm talking financials, and, for a student that might be autistic, so they want to come in and look at the home and X, Y, Z. There's a couple of preliminaries to go through in order to get that funding, but it's 100% worth it.
Okay, that's what's up, man. Because these are some things that we bring up, and it comes up, but people don't really think about. So I like to try to play devil's advocate and get as many of those questions out as I can. Scam Likely's in the building. We got Brother Dusto in here. JQ, you met him. He was at the show that night.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I want to ask you guys, kind of shift gears a little bit. And I want to ask you guys, what was it like growing up in a home where you have a child who is challenged in this way? We'll start with you, Sister Nithya.
I'm going to tell you, it was funny. Okay, like it was. I'm as a child with my brother, and I have an older brother who is autistic. He's older by a year and a half. So we're very, very close in age. So younger, when I didn't quite understand that my brother was different, because I have three brothers. So seeing and comparing and X, Y, and Z, I eventually got it. But until I got it, oh, it was a fight almost every day, every other day, because with someone on the spectrum, they have to be repeatedly told and shown and modeled and X, Y, and Z. And I remember this one time I was getting up and going to school, and he took my toothbrush, right? And he brushed his teeth with my toothbrush, and this is about 6:30 in the morning. The bus come at 6:32, so it was hot and heated. But I had to realize in that moment that, oh, colors, he thought that the purple one was his when I had just took out the pack of fresh new purple one. So that was my fault in that moment. But as a child, oh, it's going down. We fighting, doors get busted down, and but so after that though, that was me in the home though. But to the outside world, dog on a leash. No one could mess with my brother. JQ can attest because JQ and I have been in situations together for both of our brothers, together at the same moment with the same people. So it was a struggle. I felt like I had to grow up a little bit faster or be aware a little bit more, which was good for me. Is in hindsight, it was good for me. But in the moment as a child, you want to be a child. You want to live life with no cares, no worries. But, I always knew that I had to hold my brother's hand. I always knew that I had to give my brother two and three directions before we did something. I couldn't take him to big crowds. I had to learn his triggers, X, Y, and Z. So it was a huge learning experience. But as an adult, it turned me into, as I am a teacher now, into someone who's just automatically aware. I can go to the grocery store and see a person and understand, and maybe intervene if that person is having issues with someone else, because that is very common, their social skills. So they are in confrontations a lot with the outside world because the outside world doesn't understand their skills and what they simply want. But so it was funny. It was definitely funny, but I had to grow up fast.
So you were mentioning growing up fast. How old were you when the family realized that your brother was on the spectrum?
Well, honestly, my parents were very, very young. I think they caught my brother when he was probably about 4 or 5. Knew that he was on the spectrum because, like you were saying, with the spinning tops or being fascinated with some things, they noticed that he was fascinated with fans, fascinated with spinning things. He was slow to walk, slow to talk, mumbling sounds. And then after that, of course, comes the phonics, the reading, the X, Y, and Z, the school stuff. But before the school stuff, they had 3 or 4 other kids to compare him to, though. So they actually caught it early because they were like, well, Demetrius was doing this, Roderick was doing this. What's going on with my child right now? So they
So
actually
from
caught it early and said something.
so for you, it was always your realities. So as soon as
Hmm.
you were able to understand and to communicate with others, you knew like, okay, my brother is not the same as all the other kids.
Hmm. Yeah,
Okay.
so I knew, and I started to wake up. Honestly, though, it was elementary school because I was, again, he was always in some type of fight. And when I say he, I do mean we, because I wasn't going to let my brother go down for just anything. And then personal conversations, hearing the conversations between my mom and my dad, and then seeing my mom always up at the school talking to officials, talking to teachers, talking to principals, whatever. So I caught on pretty fast with that. And in return, it just made me be a certain type of communicator, just even in life. I don't yell, I try to talk. I give 3 and 4 chances. Like, it has kind of molded me a lot due to how I had to care for him. After high school, I went to college. I felt like I had a feeling of having to take care of. Like, yes, I know that this is my brother. I'm the baby, but he's the baby boy, and we're closest in age. So I felt like I had to take care of him. So once I went to college, I went ahead and got me an apartment so that I could have my brother with me. And I felt like, and even though I felt like I did things that maybe necessarily I didn't have to do, because my parents had him, you know, and they still have him till this day, but they allowed me to see what it was like to have him on my own. They allowed me to actually take the initiative to want to do more and have more, just because I know that in my mind, I have my brother too. It's just not me out here in this world. I have my brother. Even though I have two older brothers, they're so independent, I don't have to worry about them. But for my brother, I try to always have two of something, you know, or make sure I am solidified, make sure my bills are caught up, just in case my brother might want something for Christmas. Make sure that I have, you know, all these services put in place, just in case I have a personal crisis with him. I know who to call. I have to take the initiative. So that's who I am as an adult. But again, as a child, it was funny. We fought a lot. Because of, hey, if I say it 1 or 2 times, that's really just what I mean.
All right. So, Sister JQ, I'm curious as to what your experience was like. I'm pretty sure it mirrors a lot of what we just heard. But I do want to ask this: what was there a family meetings or a series of family meetings, or so everyone was on the same page, or was it just something that each individual family member kind of dealt with in their own way? I'm just curious as to what your experience was like.
We never had family meetings. And my brother's younger. He's actually in the comments, the DJ Young Frankie. But we never had family meetings. And I think I finally recognized when I was younger, in elementary. So we're 3 years apart. I remember in the cafeteria, for some reason, I don't know why we had the same lunch period, but he was running around the table. He was like, "Isn't that your brother?" And I'm like, "Yeah, that's my brother." But like Nene said, couldn't nothing come between me and my brother. Like, I'm not gonna let anybody mess with him. He was always in activities, extracurricular activities, played basketball. He's a DJ now. He has his driver's license. He plays the drums. He has a 9 to 5. Um, I don't know. I remember going to like doctor's appointments with my mom, not really knowing, what the doctor's appointments were for. But I really think, like Sunithia said, that made me who I am today. Like when it comes with the patients, you have to be repetitive. And I didn't understand that, growing up. And I don't think my parents understood either. Like, okay, we're always repeating ourselves to you. Like, why aren't you comprehending this? Or why aren't you getting this? Or you're repeating yourself. Or look at me. You're not looking at me when I talk to you. So it was just those things. And like she said, now I can recognize them, through other individuals with my brother. And especially with me being the oldest, like the other ones, I'm like, okay, they're independent. They can take care of themselves. And with this one, yes, he's independent. My parents still have him, but there's always something within us where it's like, we have to have them too. Like, what happens to them when our parents are gone? Like, what are we going to do? Is it going to be assisted living? Are they going to live with us? Like, where are they going to go? Do we have the funding for this, when our parents are gone? So there's a lot that goes through our heads on like what we're going to do. Like, you're a parent without having a child.
Right, that's what it sounds like. And Brother Dino is saying that marijuana is both a positive and a negative for causes of autism and treatment of autism. I'm not aware of that at all. So are you guys familiar with what Brother Dino is saying?
No, if he could enlighten me a little bit.
Well, I mean, it seems to me that because a lot of people are talking about CBD and using it for the medical benefits, and I would not be surprised if there are some doctors who are looking at the CBD portion, and maybe that can help some people on the spectrum. Have you guys ever encountered that?
I've encountered it once, but I really don't know much about it to.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I've only encountered it, honestly, not really even encountered it, but I've seen it like on social media or TV. And I'm going to let you guys know right now, probably our parents, our Black parents at their age, they're not putting CBD in, you know, their kids and our brothers. A lot of things when it comes to, like, I guess testing for it, it comes through chemicals. So I maybe I do know, because they give them all types of medications all the time. My brother is on constantly on medications to suppress, constantly on medications to help out with his anxiety, medications for, he has been diagnosed with schizophrenia and bipolar. So he has medications for all of that. So I don't know if that's maybe their trial to kind of get him synchronized or not, but if it comes through medications, he's already taken enough. But when it comes to the outside, I guess, trials to see if it can cure it, no, they I don't know if a group of people are going to move forward with that, because I feel like the medications are kind of what got so many of the kids or adults in the situation in the first place. So I don't know.
Okay, and that makes sense. I mean, we would definitely need someone, a scientist or a researcher, doctor, that could really answer that. But I would imagine that that's that's in play. Sister Rose is in the building. What's good? Says she's like, yes, Anithia's story is almost a mirror to mine. Salute, brother. GMC Hammer has a good statement here. Good question. What are the most common symptoms of autism? I don't even know if that's the correct term. Symptoms. I don't know. Is it more difficulty with learning concepts, or is it more difficulty in groups and individual social settings that it seems more often, or that is seen more
Jay, do you
often?
want to ask?
I think it would be like characteristics, which we discussed a bit earlier, as far as the eye contact, repetitiveness, echolalia, and difficulty learning. They're all different. And I keep saying that everyone is different. So you may have individuals that are so good with numbers, that can tell you every dinosaur. They just learn differently. I mean, Albert Einstein. I posted a young man on my story, I can't remember his name, a Black young man that works for NASCAR. There are so many actors, actresses, scientists that are on the spectrum. They just all learn differently. But I would say the smaller groups, not larger groups, just because not really social like that. What was the last question? I lost it.
Are there anything like that?
Are they what?
Is there more difficulty learning concepts, or is it more difficulty in groups and individual social settings that it seems more often? That is seen more often.
Okay, so what I do as far as a behavior therapist, we teach the individuals also how to just engage with their peers, even if it's parallel play, like alongside of them. You may have someone with autism, bump you or cross in front of you. And, from the South, like, we're like, okay, you need to say, excuse me, or, some type of manners or something like that. So we don't always teach manners, so to speak, but we do want them to be aware of their surroundings, to man, which is just asking their peers, asking adults, just having that functional communication.
So basically, it's just making sure that everyone is keenly aware, and again, knowing that we're going to have to maybe go over this a few times, so those folks who are on the spectrum get it. With respect to the marijuana question, Showers of Blessings is saying, I have heard and seen others use it, but I never tried marijuana with mine, and no medication works with mine. I use natural herbs. Is that something that's pushed in today's society, JQ? Natural herbs over medications?
I wouldn't say with kids, not with kids, with adults. I know for myself, I've been sniffing this whole time. You saw me at the show and you was like, I definitely try to steer away from medication. If I can get, some black seed oil, something, to help with those sinuses, I definitely prefer something natural than a pill.
And Sanithia, what's your take on it?
Or I think it's just both, but like she said, not prevalent in the child study, but more so in the adults. They want to push you, and I guess even as you get an adult, though, you've already had all the studies and the trials with the medications. So it's almost like the next step. Well, try this, things like that. Like I said, I've heard of it before. Haven't had any experiences with anyone who's actually done it and gotten the results from it. But I know it does have some calming characteristics and symptoms to it. It might have some focusing characteristics and stuff to it, but for how long, I'm not too sure. But I don't know. I guess it's more pushed with adults though.
I get that, and I mean, I ain't gonna lie to you. It's growing up with siblings is tough enough, and then to add to that, like you were talking about the toothbrush thing, and we had that. No one was on an autism, but we was doing that anyway. Like that's my belt. You know what I mean? It's just all that kind of stuff. It's amplified to a level, but again, it's that family's reality. So at the end of the day, like this is what we deal with. So yeah, and I guess communication wasn't key I'm older than you guys, well older than you guys. But for us, it was just like the family, like what time it is. We don't have to tell you. We had a cousin who was severely retarded. I don't know what the medical term is today, but it was severe. But he was there with us, and we knew we had to look out for him when we would go out and do stuff. And you know, you know, he just had the capacity of a toddler. That's it. He never was going to develop past that. So as his body grew, and boy, he was strong. Like we would be out there, and we had to, as young kids, here he is a teenager. Here we are like 8-year-olds, and we're out there responsible for him. So I get where you guys are coming from, but it was never a meeting, like a family meeting, say, hey, you got to go do this. We just knew. And we acted in kind. But I tell you what, Brother Pitney's in the building. I don't know if I showed you your love, bro. Mr. Pitt, this is my guy right here. He's like the source of knowledge, the keeper of wisdom. Whenever I got questions about the stuff that we talk about on the man's world part of it, I'm always hitting him. Brother Pitney, what does so and so say about this? And he just gave me the answer. But he wants to know what are good tips for complete strangers to know when interacting with an autistic person? Should they ask about possible triggers, exercise extreme patience, be ready to repeat themselves, correction, etc.? Great question.
Definitely patience. Patience. There was an incident, I don't remember where, because those who are autistic tend to elope a lot, and sometimes at night because they do not sleep. So that means the child is out wandering while their parents are sleeping, or they just out and wandered somewhere.
Wandering in the home, or just they get outside the house?
No, outside of the home. So a police officer, and now they train officers. I'm not sure if they do it everywhere, but they do train officers now. Now, a police officer, was calling out to the young man, like, hey, and they're not responding, So that incident didn't go well. But some will wear a bracelet, so look for a bracelet. They're, like I said, they're not going to respond sometimes. Eye contact, and it takes also a while to process. So you may ask a question, they might be just trying to process that, and then they'll respond like in a couple of seconds. But I'll be like, hey, what's your name? And I expect you to spit out your name right then and there. They're not always going to do that. So definitely patience. I wouldn't say ask for triggers unless you're going to be around that individual a lot. Triggers could be anything. Doing your breakfast placement, and they want the cup on the right and you accidentally put on the left. So now we're going to have a whole tantrum for probably a whole hour because you didn't put that cup on the right, you put it on the left. Loud noises, anything can be a trigger. Words that you say, or the pitch that you use, anything can be a trigger. So I wouldn't ask for triggers just unless you're going to be around the individual for a long period of time, or just around that person.
And Sanithia, what are your thoughts?
I was gonna say she said it perfectly. They're people just like everyone else. And not making it awkward, but just being aware, being understanding, and that's really key. Patience is number one. But just like we can have patience for other things in life. Just don't be so quick at the draw and things like that. And that's honestly what they is. It's not the fact that they can. It's just timing, maybe process, maybe. But just treat them just as a human. That is it.
Yeah,
Okay.
because I've seen people in the grocery store, with their child, and the child is throwing a whole tantrum. People like, oh, that child need a beating. That child need a beating. That's not always the case.
Sometimes it is though.
Mm-mm,
I'm
mm-mm.
talking about them kids and on the spectrum. Sometimes they need to get their little butt kicked because they be acting up.
True.
Ain't nothing wrong with that kid. Go ahead and break your foot off in that little kid's butt. But if they're on the spectrum, like, you just gotta be patient. I get that. It's a lot of stuff going on, a lot of sensory things, a lot of input stuff moving around. Um, what about dealing with like animals? Because so many people have dogs and whatnot these days. What is like some good advice on, I guess, introducing your pet to someone who may be on the spectrum?
Well, I think it depends on where on the spectrum that child is, because some children don't care, love them to death and might overload them and squeeze them to death, to be frank with you, or others might just want run away from that. With animals though, my brother did have a dog at one point. He passed away, but nonetheless, it wasn't a service dog or anything like that, but we did buy a dog just to have in the home. And from a baby, the my brother was familiar with this pet, so it wasn't like something he wasn't familiar with. But I know with other dogs outside of the home, oh, he's not going 2 inches from it. But so it could, again, depend on the person and depend on the familiarity and things like that. So
That's what's up, JQ. What do you say?
I don't do pets. Um, I'm allergic. We did not grow up with pets. We grew up with fish. Um, but I think it's just like anybody else. If you have pets in the home, they become familiar with it. But like she said, some, may not like the pets. And you do have to teach them, okay, pet gently, or you can touch them there.
mhm.
Do not touch the nose, things like that. Or you can get hurt. It's just like teaching a child, don't go in the kitchen because the stove is hot, you know, and you're going to have to keep repeating yourself with them.
Okay, and that makes sense. So I guess the overall theme is, patience and being willing to continue the lesson until the lesson is learned, and then again more patience, because you can't, can't scream at them because they're dealing with what they're dealing with. You guys mentioned where on the spectrum is there some sort of chart, or what exactly does that mean and what does that entail, JQ?
We have mild to severe.
Okay, mild to severe.
um,
Okay.
and it's just the different characteristics, as far, because you can have the characteristics, but then also your learning. So your educators and doctors will go based off your learning to, like, you may be high functioning in this area, but then you're low functioning in this area. So you just have to learn how to teach, and you have to teach yourself also, okay, how do I deal with this? How can I cope with this? Or how can I teach them this? Um, and I commend all the caregivers, all the moms out there, because it's like, when do you get a break? You don't.
Hmm. And
Hmm.
Cynthia, you would say the same?
Yes, so there is a spectrum scale. But in with that, so the scale is based off of like their behavior skills, is based off of their cognitive skills, and maybe environmental skills, but that might go hand in hand with behavior. So there's going back to what we were saying about tests. So there are forms, right? So I'm just going to give you an example of one. In one section, it might say ask, the child is able to clean up after themselves, or the child automatically cleans up after themselves after they get done eating. You have to wake the child up for school, or you don't have to wake the child up. It might not be for school. It might even be on a Saturday, because kids have their own routines too. Child is able to use a fork from the food to his or her mouth without, dropping it. So there's a spectrum scale, and that's more so on the behavior side. For maybe cognitive side, the child is able to say certain sounds, or able to put certain sounds together to make a word, or able to associate a word with an object or something like that. So there's, along with the scale, there's also I guess different preliminaries or different testings, quote unquote. But I don't want to keep on saying testing, but there's different testing for each of those areas. So no matter if they're mild, they have a set for that. If they're severe, they have a set for that, and things like that.
So, is it possible to go from one end of the spectrum to the other and back again, is that person pretty much there? Like if you're severe, you just pretty much there, and then you got to work from that, or can you go from, okay, you're diagnosed severe, but as you age, you kind of go back towards the other side of the spectrum, or towards the mild side? Is that a thing?
I think early intervention helps with a lot of that. Like the earlier that you're diagnosed, and that you actually have a good team, good therapists, good physicians, good teachers, all of that, that can help your child a long way. Holly Pete, I love her, the actress. I can't remember what show she was on, but her son is on the spectrum, and I believe he works for the Dodgers. But she's a huge advocate for when it comes to autism.
Yeah, just to piggyback off that. Sorry, Oh, I was just to piggyback off of that, JQ. You had mentioned early intervention, and that's the best way to combat any behavior. Even in people or students or kids that don't have any spectrum issues, early intervention for anything is the best way to combat a negative or unwanted behavior. So early intervention and repetition, and eventually, yes, some things they do grow out of because of experience. They grow out of because of being told or being shown repeatedly in X, Y, and Z, or some things that they just don't do anymore. Like I said, my brother was very, very fascinated with fans and things that spin, but at his age, and now 37, 38, he still is fascinated with things that spin. I have to take him to the carnival every year. But and from when we were younger, like how I said with the toothbrush thing, now he is very, very aware of what he picks up, no matter if it's a water bottle. If there's a series of water bottles there, he tries to go back to his, he tries to clean up behind himself, things like that. But he also knows too that it's also attached to things, because like we said, our brothers live with our parents. So we all know how parents are as well. I can't say that he will be the same person out there in the world on his own if he was in an assisted living area, because my parents don't play that. They're going to get on you if you don't pick up something. They still get on me. So, I 100% agree with early intervention for that, though, and the consistency.
Okay, that makes sense. And I need to send my daughter to your parents' house to get her to pick up stuff. I swear, it's a battle. It's a battle every day. I'm losing. I'm gonna tell you right now, I'm losing. It's like, man, can we just pick this up? Can we start with this piece right here? Okay, I'll get it later, Papa. And it's still there. You know what I mean? But so how did you guys deal with the feeling of being overwhelmed? And Sneetha, we'll keep it with you, because I mean, I get that sense just having this conversation now. I mean, it's just like, it sounds overwhelming to me as a dad, as a guy who grew up, looking after his, brothers and sisters and cousins. Bro, to add this element on top, how do you guys deal with that?
I think that understanding that this is my reality has gotten me through. Understanding that me crying about it, me whining about it, me saying I'm frustrated with this and that, can't do this and that, that is no help, because life still goes on. And I feel like, even though I don't have children, and you relate it back to your child all the time, but it's like you having your child, always knowing that, yes, my child might get on my nerves, but I love her unconditionally, so I'm going to do. So I love my brother unconditionally, so I'm going to do. And I thank God, though, that JQ and I have the parents that we have, because we haven't honestly felt the brunt of truly taking care of them 100% of the time. But that time is going to come. And I was just having this conversation with my mom the other day, when she was laying out his medical appointments. She was laying out the difficulties he was having at his adult day center that she had to go up there for. She was laying out, things to look for. And, he had got sick. That's another thing. People have disabilities, period, are at a higher risk of getting sick, because of their immune systems aren't as strong as everyone else's. So that's another thing, me wrapping my head around, of I'm going to have to be in the hospital or the ER a little bit more than I would like to. So being able to recognize that now, when he's not in the home, I feel like it's preparing me for later, and where I won't necessarily be frustrated. But a lot of it has to do with, thank goodness for the parents that we have, because even though I'm not frustrated now, the frustration is going to transfer, because my parents are going through it, and I hear what they go through almost every day. I talk to my parents every day. So, that is a highlight of our conversations. So hearing all of that, I'm able to prepare. They've prepared me. But seeing, like you said, growing up, you guys didn't have the conversations about it. So if you really don't know about the lifestyle, or what to expect when you get, especially these growing adults, like you said, your cousin who is strong. Yes, my brother is very strong. Now, I don't fight him no more. He is very strong. But these are things to look out for. But if you mentally prepare for it, if you prepare for it on the things that your parents are saying, yes, these services XYZ, I know now, oh, I need to, every time I see a gateway going down the street, I need to take a mental note of that, somewhere I could possibly take him, so that I'm not in this moment, in the second, having an emergency and not knowing where to go. I have to mentally prepare myself. And I think that's been a lot of cutting down the frustration, because I don't have my brother physically with me right now, but it's coming.
So JQ, how do you deal with that feeling of being overwhelmed? How did you deal with it in the past, and how are you currently dealing with it?
Um, like she said, the parents that we have, I really didn't have to deal with that growing up. I think for me, it was more like social, because I'm the oldest, so it's like, okay, take your brother with you, the type of thing. And it's like, I don't want to take him with me, because either people are gonna make fun, or they're gonna say this, or he's not gonna understand. I don't want to keep repeating myself. Watching out for him, just anything any older brother or sister, would do with their younger siblings. Um, but I do feel it, from my mom. My mom isn't a complainer at all. She's very patient, light spoken. But when she does call me and has concerns, like, then I know, okay. And like Sunithia said, like, that's going to be on me one day. And every day I just think about, what can I do to relieve some of that for the mom, you know, because it's nonstop for her. Like, she's on the go. She has to take them here. She has to take them there. Maybe another family member she's going for. Um, so for me being overwhelmed, I think it's really like just my faith. Having Nini, oh my goodness, just
Mhm.
because I have someone that I can talk to that understands, and that we're wearing the same shoes, basically.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. And while you guys were talking about that, and I'm just kind of working it through in my mind. Um, how has this affected you guys as beautiful single young women out there trying to do your thing? You have to incorporate this into your, I guess, your mate selection. Or am I thinking too much into this? And we'll start with you. We'll start with you, Nene, since I know your nickname now.
Yes, JQ and I always talk about that as well. When we have partners, especially when we have partners coming into the home or introducing an X, Y, and Z, we do have to privy our partners and let our partners know, hey, our brothers come first, first and foremost, and how to deal with them, or if they do this, don't worry about it. Kind of giving those small conversations, but red flags though, we also have to take it into account, the red flags with those partners who aren't as understanding fastly. Because I'm gonna tell you right now, I feel like if we understand, if we're here, if I've told you how to deal with them X, Y, and Z, then it's all copacetic. But once I start to see a little bit of confrontation, or my partner getting a little frustrated with my brother and things like that, that's when I kind of pull away. And I do, it has affected, not in a bad way, I'm gonna say in a good way, because God doesn't remove without it being a blessing. So, I have strayed away from some partners, real life, who were upset that I had my brother around for a lot of my times. But also on the flip side, playing devil's advocate for myself, I have to understand too that my brother can't go on every date, just because I want him to have fun too, because that was a thing for me too. I didn't want to leave my brother at home because, again, the scare factor. I wanted to make sure that my apartments that I stay in, even taking a partner out of it, the place that I stay in has a gate. The place that I stay in, the people are familiar with people who have disabilities, things like that. So, but going back to the partners, one time I was dating this woman, and I was dating her, and she wanted to move to Atlanta. And at this point, I'm in Florida, and I'm telling her, well, it's not that easy for me, because if I were to move to Atlanta, I have to see, what am I going to do with my brother in about 5 or 6 years, when my parents are retired, and this and that. And then she starts sucking the teeth, huffing and puffing. Oh, she was out the door. Because if you don't even allot me the time to figure it all out so that everybody can work together, because I'm not eliminating my brother for you. If you don't allot me that time, or allot us that compromise, then yeah, it's a go, hit the road, Jack. So it has honestly affected some relationships, but the ones that it didn't affect, those have been the good ones, So I
I
take
think,
all L's as a lesson.
and JQ, before you go, Brother Penny's made a point. This is what he's saying right here popped in my head immediately. Like, so you would say it's like dating a single mother. Like, yeah, it's like dating a single mom who's always gonna be a single mom. Like a single mom was gonna have that, that family member always. So that is a big ask. So Sister JQ, what's your take on it?
Um, I definitely let people know, like right off the bat, because I have a brother that's special needs. I also have a brother that's gay. So I want to know, like right off the bat, okay, how do you feel about this? There was a guy, I wouldn't say dating, but like we went on a couple of dates, and he used the R word a lot. And he also used the F word. And I was just like, I'm not comfortable with it, because like if you're using that so freely, like, no, I don't want that around my brothers. Even if someone uses the B word, I'm just like, no, I'm not comfortable with it. So I've definitely cut people off because of that. And I mean, it's okay. Like, you have to find like what fits for you. But I definitely have to incorporate my brother. So
Yeah, and that kind of goes into it, and that's goes to some folks who say, "Well, that's so unfair," but you know what? That's life. And there are
Yeah.
those people who run from it. I'm pretty sure there are people out there who run from it, just kind of leave their family behind. And me, what was it saying in the book? I know I'm a heathen, but I was raised in the church. But he who is without sin could cast the first stone. So I'm not gonna mock anyone or shun anyone who can't handle that responsibility if they choose to walk away from it. But I don't see if I were in that situation, I don't think I would do it. We weren't raised that way. But I
even if
ain't
I
mad at
want to
those.
get married, even if I were to get married, like I would have to have that discussion with my husband. Okay, is my brother gonna come live with us? Like, what's gonna happen? Like, there has to be a plan.
Yeah. Yeah. And at least you guys, it sounds like you guys are upfront about it. I've come across folks who weren't upfront about it. Not that they were trying to trap, but they were trying to talk fast. Oh yeah, I got a special needs brother or sister or a parent. And yeah, we can live together, but they're gonna be living here too. What? Hold on, what did you say? You know what I mean? Trying to be slick with it. Like, give me an opportunity to make that decision. But then, like you said, you have people who just for whatever reason, I used the R word earlier, but we didn't have special needs wasn't the term when I grew up. So that's why I'm like, I'd be struggling to like, okay, what word am I supposed to use here? Because I look at it different too. I'm like, okay, I see special needs as one thing, but for people who but like it's severe. Like, so I guess like, someone with severe special needs, I guess is what I would need to say. This is why we have these discussions so we can figure it out. There are people out there who just want to be hurtful with their words. It is what it is with them. There are those of us who are out here trying to, do it the right way, I should say. But yeah, dropping those, the always said the R word and it was the F word. It's so many different words. The N word, you know what I mean? What's the word for white people? If I say the C word, that's not. Remember, cracker. That's not. Like, we don't have a word for white folks. You know what I mean? You say the C word, they think it's something completely different. Like, no, not that one, not that C word, the other C word. But yeah, it's just, I ain't gonna lie to you. I missed the 80s in the sense that people just said it. They said whatever, and we just roll with it. But today, it ain't like that. Being overprotective, we covered. Well, feeling overwhelmed, I think we touched on being overprotective. It's like a thread throughout. Like, how overprotective were you guys? We'll start with JQ. How overprotective were you guys starting out with this?
I guess I always knew that I was overprotective, but I had a friend tell me that I am that overprotective friend, and I guess I never, seen it like that. But I don't even know where that comes from. I don't know if it comes from, being the eldest, and I was just always protect. I'm still protective, even though I give my brother a lot of room. Even if I see him put something on Facebook that may be concerning, I'm not going to go to him right away, but I want him to come to me. But I will, like, make a phone call, just to see where that conversation will lead or something like that. If there's any concerns, that family members or my parents may have, it's always me. Hey, Sheree, I need you to do this, check in, whatever it is. But I don't know how overprotective I am, but I do know that I'm overprotective of me. So
yeah,
that's just me.
Yeah. So I guess like my overprotective would just be always wanting to be proactive. Because we're JQ and I are human too, so we have feelings too, and I feel like we feel for our brothers. Autism has there's a thing in there for feelings, and that's why they are how they are. It might come off nonchalant, but it's really not. But I feel like JQ and I overfeel for them because we see, actually we were able to read between the lines. So being a voice of reason all the time, always having to be kind of 7 steps ahead, comes with that overprotection. And like we said, when we were younger, oh yeah, we got down with the hands. They call Hinesville, this is where JQ and I are from. They call Hinesville Hook City because what we would fight all of the time. But in good taste, I feel like, because it wasn't like we weren't fighting for anything, but people were cruel, kids were cruel. But our overprotection now, as we go older, are, now we're not going to go to this place. A group of friends want to go over here, us now we're cool chilling over here because we might have our brothers. Just kind of being the forward thinking in all of our situations whenever we do have our brothers. So that's the overprotection part of it at this point.
Yeah.
Well, that overprotective kind of rolls into just everything, right? All your friends, like JQ just says, like, well, it's not just my brothers. I'm overprotective of everyone I care about.
True.
So, and I could get that because you grew up in a world where you had to be, like, you had to pay attention. I think one of the things you guys wanted to talk about was having to be hyper aware of your surroundings to this day. Like you were saying, Sunithia, like, oh, well, if I get a place, I got to make sure I have a gate. You know what I mean? If I got to make sure that the neighbors are all aware of what's going on. Would you take it a step further and make sure that local law enforcement even know, like find out who the beat cops are? So, so if something does happen, they know. I know there was an incident, I think it was in the Northeast, where law enforcement was called in a situation with someone who was on the spectrum. And I think you mentioned the JQ, and it didn't end well for that young man. They were trying to restrain him and put a bag over his head and all sorts of stuff. And the memory served, it didn't end out. It didn't end well. So is that something that people should consider? Like, let me also incorporate local law enforcement.
I don't know. Incorporating local law enforcement. Like I said, I know law enforcement now, they are having training. And luckily for Sneak and I, we are from a small hometown and like we all grew up together. So everyone knows everyone as far as that sense. But if you involve the law enforcement, I would think, I mean, they're going to have a long list of people, especially if you're from a big city. Like, they're not going to remember all those names and faces. But I will say, just have that training so that they are aware, that they can recognize signs, and how to communicate, how to talk, to those individuals. Because I know for me, I'm a pretty patient person. I communicate fairly well. I think Nini communicates better than I do, but I just had to learn, how to talk to my brother, and I did go to school for this. So after maybe 2 years within education, I just sat down and wrote him a long letter, like my experiences, just apologizing because I finally like saw it through his lens. And I apologize, for anything that may have been hurtful that I've said or done, just anything like that. But I don't know about involving local law enforcement. What do you think,
Yeah.
Nene? I don't know.
Well, Nini, before you go, the reason I bring that up is one of my pet peeves when it comes to law enforcement is their poor training. So, like, cops aren't getting the proper training on their weapon, let alone something like this. So I don't know. I think that will be a continuing conversation. Like, if I were in that world, that's something that will be on the forefront of my mind. And you're right. If you're in New York or Miami or LA, you have no idea what police officer is going to be walking that beat on that particular day. And it's definitely a challenge. But go ahead, Nini.
Well, I would say I actually never thought about involving law enforcement in that because of I saw that same video and I've seen outright in reality how law enforcement does deal with anybody, period, whenever the moments are heightened. I think that sometimes logic kind of goes out the window and their routine just kind of kicks in. So that's scary about it. But I would like to say, though, I do think it is a good idea if I do notice or if we do notice that there's certain types of units or cops that are coming around and, just saying, hey, X, Y, and Z, I have an autistic brother and just letting them know that I do think that is a good idea if we have those same people in and out. But I will say, and I don't know if this is true, but I feel like there are, and I don't want to be so cliche with it, but I feel like there are like disability cards, like cards is saying, "Hey, I have X, Y, and Z." It is quite corny, but I feel like it is needed sometimes. I have this, I have that. I'm deaf, I'm blind. So there are identifiers if the person can get to identifying that, though.
Yeah, and there were medical alert bracelets back in the day. I'm showing my age, but people were walking around with these bracelets, and if you're passed out, you can flip the bracelet over and it says, I'm anemic or I'm epileptic or I'm whatever, diabetic, I'm whatever. So, and that would help. Sister Rosa is making a good point. She was saying that in my neighborhood, you can register your address with the local precinct so they are aware someone with special needs is there. Yeah, and I'm pretty sure that's probably the case in most metropolitan areas. Again, the problem with law enforcement is the training. You know what I mean? Like in small towns, people know, But imagine if someone from an outsider came to y'all hometown, became a law enforcement official, they wouldn't know. And then they came across someone with special needs and they don't know what they're dealing with and they're afraid and poor training and it turns out the way it turns out. So I'm always harping on that. Um, is it real important to teach those on the spectrum who the fire department is, who the police department is, who doctors are? Is that like heavily emphasized in their education and training and stuff?
Well, at least to recognize who these people are, because they are a safety point as well. So, a lot of autistic people may be scared of the unfamiliar. When it comes to change, it's a huge uproar when it comes to something that's different for them. When, no matter if it's activity or people, that can be a trigger. So yes, being able to recognize, hey, these blue uniforms are this, the red uniforms are that. These people are here to help. They have a fire truck. He has a police car. Yeah, to at least privy them, to let them know that these are friends, and not enemies.
Okay. JQ, what's your take?
I agree with what Nini said, and because they have to be able to generalize, through all environments. But you teach like regular ed too, like who a police officer is, who a firefighter is, all of that. But yeah, teaching them that, and then just make sure that they can generalize those things. I think it would be good too, if they did have the training as far as, the police officers, firefighters, and they would just come to, I don't know, maybe once a month. I'm just throwing it out there. You know, just to engage with those individuals.
Yeah,
So,
I think
something does happen.
I think something like that would be a grassroots kind of movement, which makes sense. I agree with you 100%. Especially if you're part of that community, you want to do everything you can, to help your loved ones, family, friends who are on the spectrum. Because I ain't gonna lie to you, I don't like being put in handcuffs. If all you ladies out there to think that shit is cute, it's not. Don't be asking me if I want you to put me in some handcuffs. I'm gonna say no every single time, unless they fake handcuffs. Something I can break. You ain't locking me up. So, but just to imagine, someone on the spectrum and you're trying to put their hands behind their back and put handcuffs on them. I don't like that. So I would imagine that would be a huge thing.
Yeah, you definitely don't want to restrain. um, I had, now that I think about it, a field trip that we went on in Georgia, and one of my students was terrified of fire trucks, and I knew that the firefighters would be out there, but I tried to walk him around the different side of the building, but they let the ladder up on the fire truck, so he saw it. So there was just a big tantrum that he had, and it was just me, myself. And then I believe another teacher had finally come out there, but I had to, restrain him because it was just myself. And, at this point, he was being aggressive towards me. But yeah.
Nina, you got a story like that?
Not necessarily like that. I've had to restrain general education students. So in the inner city, Tampa, that's a whole nother story. But no, not necessarily with dealing with someone on the spectrum. But because I am general ed, they now have classes where students who are on the spectrum are in those classes, or they have aides with them. So I won't have that direct contact.
Okay. That makes sense. And then Sister Rosalind was saying that she's like, yes, we taught my brother how to call 911 and what to say, etc. His program does safety drills also. These are the things that we take this for granted. Like if we're walking through a building, we hear the fire alarm, we know to exit the building. But I would imagine someone on the spectrum might just cover their eyes and cover their ears and, maybe try to hide in a closet or something. So we need that extra training, or just, I think we should encourage people to be aware of that. So if I were to encounter that, like say I'm in Publix or grocery store and the fire alarms go off and they need us to exit the building and I see someone who's on the spectrum there, or like they're kind of freaking out, what should I do? Should I just go get some help, or should I try to help them out? What should you do if you find yourself in that situation?
One, I would first ask the caregiver, you know, how you can help.
Okay.
Because let's say if it's a female, she may not do well with males.
Okay.
There may have been something in the past with sexual harassment, like you never know. So first, just ask the caregiver, like, what can I do to help? I think
So the very first thing I should do is look for the caregiver.
yeah.
Okay.
Well, if it is that extreme and there isn't a caregiver around, which there should be, but if there isn't, then yes, just try to get that individual out.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But you need
Yep,
like
and then
have that function with communication with them, you know, to try to make them feel safe and all of that. But I mean, it's an emergency situation, so just try to get them out of there.
Okay. So Nene, then so I should be trying to keep distance. I don't necessarily want to touch probably, but you know, focus and try to get them maybe to follow me out. Would you suggest something like that, Nene?
well, if no one else, like you said, if the caregiver isn't stepping in, if you know the manager of the store isn't doing anything, then yes. And if you recognize that this is a person that just needs attention and not necessarily you know, the police or not necessarily aggressive force, then yeah, absolutely do that if you are comfortable with that. But like JQ was saying, you know, kind of just observe the situation. And even if you were to get a manager, kind of give them everything that you think. Hey, I think this person might be special needs. You know, I think it's a little bit more than them just dropping the glass on the ground, you know, being bad. Like, no, I think it's a little bit more than that. And making everyone aware of your thoughts, because again, people just, when emergencies happen, people just go on with force rather than the thinking behind it. So
That's really good advice, because in that particular scenario, you have flashing lights, sirens, you know, that loud noises. And I mean, like I said, I'll trigger just about anybody. You got kids running around screaming,
mhm.
dogs are howling. That would have to be an extremely um, scary situation to be in if you're someone on the spectrum, like, because it comes from out of nowhere. Do you guys cover that, JQ, in like in classes and you know preparing them for life? Are those some of the things that you guys cover?
As far as the fire drills, or as far as encountering someone in the natural environment.
Well, both. Like with fire drills, you know, maybe like in the Midwest, tornado warnings. So you got the big horns going off, you know, the flashing lights. Is that something you like? If you have someone who's like on the mild part of the spectrum, is that something that they need some, you know, just to get up to speed on, like to be prepared for it?
We definitely go over fire drills. Depending on the school, the clinic, wherever you're at, they don't always sound off the actual alarm, but you do, what we do, let the kids know sometimes that, hey, we're about to have a fire drill. This is what we need to do. This is where we're exiting. This is where we're walking, all of that. Um, I do like one-on-one, so I'm just with clients. I'm not, you know, I don't have a classroom to myself like Mimi does. But we definitely go over all of that.
Okay. And Nini, is that on the curriculum? Is that something that is that like a state assessment thing? They got to know how to react in the fire drill.
Absolutely. So we have it's law. I feel like we have like a drill almost every semester, some type of storm drill, tornado, lockdown, things like that. So it's kind of like the inevitable for everybody. We have to go through these drills because we have to know how to react. Now, say if I have a student in my classroom though that I know is on the spectrum or X, Y, and Z, it will be my personal duty, and I hope you know it's really up to the teachers, but it will be my personal duty to let me grab these ear canceling headphones on my way out, that where I'm trying to get 30 students out, let me remember to get this one thing that's all the way across the classroom. I only got 1 minute to get out. Stuff like that. You know, you have to be that type of diligent teacher as well, and want to do those types of things in the classroom. But yes, we have drills like that all the time. But in preparation for our babies with the disabilities, we kind of have to go that extra mile, you know.
That makes sense. You go the extra mile, you're not getting paid for that extra mile either. So, you know, God bless both of y'all. So triggers, Nini, what are some of the triggers that you guys have encountered on your journey working with people on the spectrum?
Mm, for me, it's routine. When routines are off, that's a huge trigger for someone. When
Absolutely.
yes. Uh, Other triggers might be, like you said, lights, sometimes music, or not being able to do certain things like rocking, or tapping and stuff like that. You have to have things in place for those unwanted activities if they're in your classroom. So, say for I actually did have a student who used to tap and do all that stuff all the time. So, of course, I got him a little squeezy ball. Of course, he wanted to throw it all over the classroom, so that didn't work. Then I actually got him some real drums, an electric drum set that he was able to only hear with his own headphones. But I use that as free time. You kind of have to sometimes leverage them with their triggers, because some triggers you do want them to grow out of. Some things are just innately in them, but some triggers they do have to grow out of because of a society. And no, baby, you can't do that all the time. You can't, when somebody goes past you, you can't bump them with your arm. You can't spit on them. You can't scream at them whenever they're going by. So it's some compromise in there, some leverage in there. But those are some of the triggers that I see inside of the classroom, definitely with the routine.
Okay, and JQ, you lit up on that part of the routine, so that's a huge one, huh?
Yeah, routine definitely, but like the rocking, the tapping that she said, those would more so like be stimming. But as far as triggers is something, basically what it says is going to trigger a behavior. So whether that be SIB,
What's SIB?
anything, self-inflicting behavior.
Okay.
So anything like that, aggression, like all of that. So those are triggers, but definitely routine. So let's just say I'm a parent and I have a child who is autistic, and I pushed my snooze button, didn't even realize it. And now I'm running an hour late and I'm rushing this child. Like, we're probably going to have a whole meltdown because now mommy is skipping stuff because she's trying to rush out because she's late and now she's going to be late for work. And they're like, we still need to do this. We're going to do this on my speed, on my time. Like, definitely, like you have, even if you take a certain way home every day that you're driving, you decide, oh, let me make this detour.
Wow.
No, absolutely.
So if you're just on your normal commute home and they're working on a road detour, that could be a huge trigger for your family member with special needs, because you have to take the detour and they're gonna go like, this ain't cool until they get back on the
Right.
route.
For some, that's not all. Yeah.
That's crazy.
But even, it can be colors. It could, like, anything can be triggers.
I ain't gonna lie, I got a trigger. Those eyelashes, those butterfly eyelashes that people be putting up, man. Look, that's one of my triggers right there. Like, take that off. Somebody get a net. Somebody get a net, man. Her eyes about to fly away. I don't like that. I don't like that at all. Is Anita, you breaking up? What'd you say, love?
I said not a net, not the net.
Yeah, catch that, man. Catch that. I can't focus. I can't even mess my whole. I can't even do comedy. Hold on, man. She got to take them off, man. I can't do my comedy right now. I'm gonna focus on them eyelashes. I don't even know where that came from. But so being human and needing a break. You guys sent me a list, and thank you for that, because it was the perfect guide for this conversation. What's meant by that? And we'll start with Nene, being human and needing a break.
Okay, so we have to realize that when we are caring for someone, it's like you have to live two lives. So doing that, always thinking for someone, always having to do, that can be overwhelming. That could be just, like I said, you need a break from life. Us as just regular people, individuals, many times we need a break from life. So having someone else on your list of who you have to take care of, that is, it's a whole nother life that you have to attend to. So definitely needing a break. And that break can come in, maybe even giving yourself 15 minutes of a foot spa, or, just some quiet time, or letting things go of, hey, I done told him that he has to take a shower by 7 because of routines, but if you don't do it by 7 tonight, just let it go because I need a break, so it doesn't necessarily mean I need a vacation, but mental break.
Okay. And JQ, would you agree with that?
I would agree. Like she said, you're caring for another person, and like we don't physically have our brothers. And for me, I don't want to be kind of like that helicopter parent, or I don't want to be, too overprotective. But then there's a lot of times I feel like I'm not doing enough. Like, what can I do? And I just have to realize, like, you've done all that you can do, you know. Um, but for me, like Nene told me the other day, she said my do not disturb is disrespectful. But
Yes.
I my phone stays on do not disturb. I need those breaks, especially, getting off of work. Like it takes a while for me just to gather myself together. But for me, needing a break, it's really just me spending time with myself, whether it's reading, whether me just sitting in the dark. I like to sit in the car a lot, just sitting in a parking lot, people watching or eating. I sit in the car a lot.
That is crazy. Don't be telling that. So if I see you in the parking lot, I shouldn't be concerned. Like, oh, that's just what she do. That's her thing.
Yeah.
All right. I ain't mad. Did we cover everything? Was there anything you guys want to talk about that we didn't touch on?
Yeah, that was a lot. I think we covered a lot of it, so.
Well, that's what's up. So, Nene, we'll give you your final thoughts on all this, and then if you do social media and all that, let people know where they can find you and all that good stuff.
Absolutely. So my final thoughts on it is that, they are people just like we are. Friends on the spectrum are people just like we are. Be patient, be kind, take a step out of yourself and just to understand others, and recognize that when something is a little different, that different doesn't mean wrong. It just, means different. So that's basically my takeaway. Be diligent. If you are a parent with a child who has autism, be diligent, be persistent, be inquisitive, be the advocate, because it doesn't just stop and start here. This is a lifelong thing. So many blessings to any and everyone who comes in contact with these angels.
That's what's up. And I appreciate that. Those are good final words right there, girl. We ain't done, don't go nowhere. Sister J. Washington, what are your final thoughts?
Everything that my sis said. No, she said it perfectly. And like I said, just kudos to the parents, because I know parents need breaks. The caregivers, they definitely need breaks. But just have the patience, be consistent, be the advocate. As much as we fight for everything else, Black Lives Matter and all of this, like they need our advocacy as well.
That is what's up. And like Sister Rosin was saying, and remember, ladies, you are not alone. That's what's up. That's fire. I really appreciate you guys taking time. Now I feel bad because I'm like, man, I'm cutting into their personal time. They had to modify their routine just to come over here and enlighten us. But I'm so glad y'all did it. Thank you so much. Don DeMarco to both of you guys. Don DeMarco. Gotta give you Don DeMarco for that. I appreciate everyone who was checking out this stream. I hope everyone was able to take away something from this. I know I did. I mean, I never thought about it until today. And that world, man, is just so much you got to think about. I mean, it just reminds me when my daughter was a toddler. To me, that was the scariest time of being a father, because they're out there running around at the whole world. They fearless, just gone, and you got to be on them. And it's just like, imagine doing that every day of your life, because when you have people on the spectrum, that's what you're looking out for. Even when you train them up. Now, I don't worry about so much. I mean, we always make fun of the kids that get ran over at our middle school, because these kids don't be looking both ways before they cross the street and they get hit by cars. And I be like, see, you should be thanking me because you ain't get ran over, because I told you better. but there's a parent somewhere upset that they little Billy got ran over on his scooter.
Right.
And and these kids aren't on the spectrum. These are just knucklehead children. I got a problem with knucklehead kids, y'all. It's my thing. So And Brother Pitney, it's like, thank you for the insight, ladies. I appreciate you, bro. Appreciate you. And I appreciate you guys for coming on. I guess we're done. This was great. This was a fun show. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Please, please, please like and subscribe. Clip this one. This is some real good information here. Clip this to anyone you know who is working with or living with those on the spectrum. Now you got a glimpse into their life and what they're doing and the amount of patience they need. If you come across some folks like that, patience, patience, patience. Just sit back and chill, y'all. Don't go flying off the handle. Chill out, you know what I mean, and use that understanding. And like the sister said, they're humans just like us. They're just dealing with what they have to deal with. This was a great show. Thank you so much. I'm out of here. I'm DL Saint. This is the I Really Want to Know podcast. That's Sister JQ. That's Sister Nene. We will be, well, they won't be, but I'll be back tomorrow. And we'll bring these sisters back whenever they want. You know, you guys always have a home here. If you ever need me for anything, if you want to talk about anything, please, please, please use this platform. That's why we're building it. Just let me know what it is and we'll turn the cameras on. So thanks again. Thank you guys out there. We are out. Peace.
Nothing like I've ever seen. It's just a thing of beauty.
Darn, that's the end.